Hello, in this video I'm going to explain what coir is, why and how it's used by home gardeners and home plant growers, and I will also show you how to prepare coconut substrate from a briquette like this. Coir or coconut fiber is a natural fiber that is extracted from a coconut. Coir is a fibrous materials which is found between the internal hard shell of coconut and external outer coat of coconut. Coconuts which you see in supermarkets usually have their coir removed. Coconut fibers are typically about 10 to 30 centimeters long, which is about 4 to 12 inches long. You should not confuse coconut fiber with coconut pith, which is also formally known as COCO PITH, but this word is no longer in use. And coir pith is a powdery material which is resulted from processing of coconut fiber. When you buy coconut briquettes like this for use for your home plants or for your garden, what you generally buy is or pure coconut pith or a mixture of coconut pith and coconut fiber in a different proportion. Coir is light in weight and porous. Depending on the predetermined composition of coconut pith and coconut fiber, you can get a substrate which has ideal properties for roots growth. The size of coconut fibers and coconut pith is so perfect that it's as of now seems to be the best substrate based on the texture to develop roots of your plants. This is one of the reasons why coconut coir so often used for seedlings instead of peat tablets, for example. Has strong water retention properties while allowing air to pass through. Because of this, COCO PITH can support strong root growth while leading to longer lifespans for the plants. For this and many other reasons, COCO PITH and coconut fibers and this coir briquette has grown in popularity in home gardeners as well as in horticulture and agriculture. It is usually shipped in a form of briquettes, bales, slabs or discs. For example, this is one of standard forms, but you might find bigger or smaller or in different form and shape. What you do when you receive it is generally you add water in order to expand it to the desired volume. A single kilogram of coir is usually expanded to 15 liters of ready substrate. So let's look at the different ways of using coir for growing your plants. The first way is using it as a component of a soil-based mixture or substrate. Due to increasing concern regarding sustainability of using peat, sphagnum, peat moss, usage of alternative substrates is now considered, and coconut fibers and coconut pith is one of those substrates that offer additional benefits while seem to be more sustainable than using COCO PITH, which cannot than using peat, which is not renewed at such a big rate as COCO PITH. Coir can be potentially used as a growing media, but in this case constant fertilizing is needed because it doesn't contain nitrogen and most of the other nutrients that are needed for your plants. In practice, it's most often used by industrial growers for growing orchids, and it's also used in horticulture. However, in horticulture, it's only used as a medium to keep your plant, and many other medium can be used instead of coir. Coir is also often used as a mulch for the plants. Because it doesn't decompose quickly, it usually takes a few years. However, in country where I live, coir is pretty expensive and it's not the best way to using it. So I would suggest, if you don't have your free or very cheap access to coir, don't use it for mulching. There are other ways, organic ways, to mulch your plants. And the fourth important use is not directly related to plants, but I have to mention it here as well. It's used for growing mushroom as a substrate for mushroom that grow on cellulose, because coir content has a high content of cellulose and lignins. Because coir usage as a growing media or as amendment to a soil is relatively recent, there are a lot of myths and misunderstandings about coir, which are very widespread based on what I saw on internet, on YouTube, and unfortunately this leads to poor results while using coconut coir. I'm now making a video about those myths, so subscribe in order not to miss this video, because it would explain you much more in details why and how you should or should not prepare and use coir in horticulture or for your plants. Now let's see how to prepare this substrate. There are two ways that I will show to prepare it, and it will depend on several factors. What's important for you to know now is to understand what is the composition of your coir brick that you bought. So always buy it from a reputable supplier where you can see what is the composition, what is the nutrient content, how to prepare it, and other factors. So in my situation, I have this little manual which says that what I bought is coir pith and coir fiber, organic material with added unorganic NPK fertilizer 20-20-20, with micronutrients and inorganic nutrigenous fertilizer. So you can see from this that this is not a pure coir, and what you just potentially need to do is to add water. However, that's not how we are going to do it in this video. The second situation which you might inquire, that you might see, is that you would have pure coconut bricks which are not fertilized. In this situation, I would recommend a different way of preparing it.
When you buy coir, it should be hermetically wrapped. The reason is that it's very hygroscopic, so it's important that it doesn't get any humidity from the air. You see, this one is hermetically wrapped. Once you get the packaging, don't forget to read the composition and the nutrient content. The one I have added NPK fertilizer 20-20-20 and other micronutrients. The nutrients are enough for the first 2-3 weeks of growth before starting fertilizing, and one briquette is 300 grams and you need to add 5 liters of water. So let's start. Remove all the packaging. As you will see, the one I have is already broken into two because my partner wanted to check its strength and it was not too strong as to him. It doesn't matter as it had no implications on the quality of the final coir. What I am going to do is only to use a quarter for my first demonstration. My first demonstration is based on quality coir from reputable supplier with added nutrient content. I will take a quarter. It was very easy because my briquette is not too thick, but you might want to use something stronger, for example, a knife, a saw, or a hammer, depending on the size of your coir block. According to the manual, you need to add water, but that's not what we are going to do. You need 5 liters of water for 300 grams, and I will have only a quarter of this, so I will need quarter of water, which is 1 liter and 250 milliliter. What I'm going to do now is humates. I hope you know about humates, which are one of the key components of the soil that ensure healthy growth of your plants and promote healthy growth. The water, once you add humates, should be slightly brown. I put too much, unfortunately, so now I have to add water and remove the excess water in order to get it to 1.25 liters of slightly brown humate solutions. Sorry about this. I'm sure you will do it much better than I do here. Now, the next thing is to add effective microorganisms, which are basically a very useful microorganisms for the soil, which support healthy plant growth. What I have here is bokashi, which is microorganisms which were first discovered and made in a commercial product in Japan, and they are fantastic. I add them everywhere in my garden, in my for my home plants. It's just fantastic. But you can add any useful soil microorganisms. There are so many, and if you don't know where to find them, just go to any garden organic shop. I'm going to mix it so it's better dissolved, but it's actually absolutely not necessary, because that would be the solution where we are going to get to soak our coir. The package which I got already had this big packet where you can soak. Oops, I hope you'll do it much better than I do. Anyway, but if you do not have such packet, you just should take a container, much bigger container than a piece of coir that you are using. You see that if literally a few seconds later, it's already started expanding and it became much thicker than it was before. Let's give it a few minutes. Depending on coir and on volume of coir that you use, it would take from few minutes to a few hours. Don't be in a hurry, just leave it. You can use any temperature water. Obviously, the warmer it is, the faster the process. This is a room temperature water, and in less than 1 minute, you can see that it's already increased several times. It becomes very soft and easily crushed when it's soaked. You see that it's almost ready. It's just that a little bit in the middle is not yet soaked. Let's leave it for a few more minutes. Well, now it's about 4-5 minutes later and it's already ready. If you squeeze this, some water would still separate, but you don't see any water in the package, which is not absorbed by coir. Now let's leave it for a few more minutes while we are looking at the second way of preparing coir. This is the way which I recommend for situation when you are not sure about the quality of coir. So what you want to do is to remove as much sodium and potassium, if there's there, as possible. Please do watch my other video on coir and myth regarding to that in order to get more information on why this is so important. So what we do here is that we put much more water, several liters more in this situation than what recommended in the manual. The reason is that we want potassium and sodium, which is in the coir, which might be in Coir, we don't know that, to be extracted. It will, to a certain extent. If you have, for example, calcium chelate, it would be useful to add it here so it can bond to much better and to remove more potassium and sodium from the coir pith and coir fibers. So you see the process is very similar. It takes about the same time for it to soak. And let's wait a little bit more to see how it's soaked. At this stage, you should not add anything to the water because you want this water to be discarded later. You only want potassium and sodium to be extracted to the solution. It's now almost ready, and the next step is to remove water and leave the coir. Now that it's all soaked, we need to remove the water. You can do it in a many different way. For example, like I started to do it here, just because I have some fibers and not all is coconut pith. But that's not very effective method. So just use what you have in order to sieve water through. For example, any textile that might have old t-shirt would work, nylon stockings would work, anything what you have. I do have some additional way of doing it, but never use your kitchen utensils for separating coir or for any agricultural work. Just keep everything separately, what you do in the garden and your kitchen. So now you see we removed the water that's gonna be discarded, and we are going to put together all the coir made by the second method. When you look at it, you see that it's much drier than the previous one, and that's what we want, because we do want to add additional water to make it the same texture, the same consistency than in the other experiment. And so the water which I had was not enough, so I'm now bringing a little bit more water to add here. It's better to add a little bit less, I guess, than more, just to ensure that you don't put too much water. It's a little bit liquid, but with time it will absorb like it was absorbed in the previous experiment. So now we are also adding a little bit of humate, and we will add effective microorganisms for our soil and mix everything. Because you already removed water with everything what was dissolved, and if a producer added any fertilizer or any nutrients, they are gone. This is the point where you should add additional fertilizers, NPK, microelements, organic fertilizer, whatever you have. I do not have any because I practice organic gardening with mulching and any and other agricultural methods where I do not need fertilizer, so I don't have anything to add. But please do add at this point, and if you can, do add fertilizer which is specifically done for coir, because it has very different, well, slightly different composition than a standard plant fertilizer. If you have any dry coir left, don't forget to wrap it hermetically, and of course don't forget to subscribe and click on a bell button in order not to miss anything important and interesting. See you in my next video. Bye.